today. This year is a year of commemorations. While the United Nations celebrates its 80th anniversary, in Chile, we mark 100 years since the 1925 Constitution, a decisive turning point that established for the first time in the country a complete separation between the church and the state. This centennial offers us not only a chance to reflect on Chile's national experience, but also to situate it in a broader regional and global conversation about the role of religions and spiritualities in building sustainable peace and development. The 1925 Constitution represented a dual movement. First, the legal strengthening of laicity, which ended fiscal privileges for the church. And second, a cultural shift toward a more pluralistic society. At that time, Chile was receiving waves of migration from Europe and the Middle East, bringing with them diverse faith and new spiritual needs that were at that time in the hands only of the Catholic Church. A century later, in Chile, we faced a different scenario. Legal frameworks that guarantee freedom of religion coexist with growing secularization, declining trust in religious institutions, and the ongoing struggles of minority groups, especially indigenous communities, such as the Mapuche and other Indian, Aymara, Quechua, and Polynesian communities that claim for recognition and dignity. This reality underscores a key truth. Separation of religion and state does not mean exclusion of religion from the public sphere. On the contrary, religious individuals and communities remain integral to the social fabric, making significant contributions to the common good. From this perspective, I would like to highlight three aspects of interfaith dialogue that, in my opinion, there can be many others, can illuminate our conversation today. First, I'm going to talk about hospitality. Second, about interreligious collaboration. And third, about religious literacy. Let's go for the first one, hospitality. Hospitality is not exclusive to Christianity. It is found across many traditions, from the Bible to the Quran, especially in the teachings about welcoming the stranger and the travelers. In interreligious dialogue and intercultural dialogue, hospitality means more than polite courtesy. In the practice of interreligious dialogue, hospitality is crucial for welcoming not only people from diverse religious and spiritual traditions, but also for embracing their ideas and being open to learning from them. These people are our neighbors, co-workers, classmates, and in many cases, they are also our family members. Hospitality is a crucial virtue that cannot be reduced to a simple way of entertaining others. It is a way of life, an ethical stance, and a responsible option. It requires openness, but also vulnerability, and willingness to be changed by encounters with others. For while we are called to be hospitable, we are also called to be humble hosts. And sometimes to be hosted can be even harder than being hospitable. And here's the key. Hospitality never ends. There will always be new guests, new strangers. It is a universal virtue that transcends public and private sphere because it reflects love, justice, and dignity. Ultimately, hospitality images the love of God. Hospitality reminds us that peace begins at the door when we choose to welcome, rather than to exclude. One example of hospitality in Chile is the celebration of the Te Deum, which is a liturgical celebration, a sort of mass, if you want to find a parallel, that takes place in Chile during the national days. This tradition has become a genuine space to encounter authorities of the highest level of the country, led by the President of the Republic, and gather together with representatives of the Catholic, Orthodox, Lutheran, Anglican, Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal, and Evangelical churches, as well as Jewish and Muslim, Baha'i faith, Hindus, and many other communities that are today in the country. The Te Deum is not merely a ceremony, it is a practice of recognition, a way of acknowledging the diverse spiritual voices that contribute to our common life as a nation. The Chilean case teaches us that laws are essential, but, I'm so sorry if there are lawyers here, insufficient. Because legal protections can guarantee rights on the paper, and they are important to be there. But only dialogue, face-to-face, heart-to-heart, can build trust and reduce polarization. This is why interfaith dialogue, combined with hospitality, is crucial for creating a society where religious freedom is not just a concept, but a lived reality. Interfaith dialogue is not only about words, but also about shared action. And so I'm going to move to the second principle, which was interreligious collaboration. And the third one, religious literacy. Just to check if you are with me. Still, interreligious collaboration, right? Yeah, still, before having the collaboration taking place, it is necessary to have what Catherine Cornille calls as religious interconnection. By this, the theologian argues that interreligious dialogue implies the belief that religions actually do have something to do with one another, that they deal with some of the same fundamental religious and existential questions, or that they somehow connect in common concerns. It's about questions about life, death, and coexistence. An example from Chile dates back to the years of dictatorship. At that time, Catholics, Protestants, and Jewish communities worked together to defend human rights, to protect families, and to be with those searching for their loved ones who were disappeared by the military regime. That was the origin of the power that got an institution that today still exists in Chile, named FRAECH, the Ecumenical Fraternity or Association of Chile. This kind of interfaith dialogue in action shows how communities of faith can transcend doctrinal differences and unite around common values of justice and dignity. This is a recognition of a fundamental principle. Today, we need the same spirit of collaboration, not only in times of political crisis, but also when facing global challenges, such as climate change, forced migration, inequality, and our desire for peace. When religious believers collaborate, they demonstrate that faith is not an obstacle, but a force for resilience and the common good. Finally, religious literacy. This is very challenging also for us in Chile, where we still are in a process of recognizing the importance of religious education in public schools that integrate religious diversity. By religious literacy, I mean the ability to understand how religion intersects with cultural, political, and social life. A religiously literate person far from simply knowing the facts about religion, that we can easily Google them and find them, is someone who managed to put themselves in the shoes of the religious life of those around them. It is someone who can enter the experience of the other, someone who can imagine how faith shapes everyday choices. In other words, religious literacy implies more than a simple knowledge about religions, but an ability to understand, if you want by heart, right? An ability, or with the heart, not by heart, with the heart, but the ability to understand that religions are not an abstract concept, but a way to call people of faith, whose lives and communities are deeply shaped by their religious identities. What to eat or not to eat, what clothing or symbols to wear, how to pray. Do you pray in the morning? Do you pray in the night? In Christianity, we are taught to pray in the night, to thank God for the day, or celebrate life milestones. How to frame moral and ethical decisions. Everything has to do with concrete people that are coexisting with us every day. A religiously literate person has not only knowledge about a religion, but also the ability and skill to recognize a religion or a religious practice in its specific cultural, religious, social context, is to see that something is happening there and it's something religious. Even if I don't understand what is happening, but it deserves respect, at least. Religious literacy can be nurtured through education, which is a long-term project, but also through direct encounters. Religious literacy gained through encounters with others encourages a kind of movement in religious traditions that advances from a bad system, from an attitude of self-sufficiency to one of openness to others. Dialogue becomes an ongoing task of seeking religious truth. And here is the transformative element. Religious literacy not only increases mutual understanding and trust, it also serves as a medicine to fanaticism and extremism. We can talk about that in our conversation, but because it can open a new topic. It demonstrates that religion can be a source of life, hope, and peace. Dialogue among religious and non-religious communities offers a concrete path toward collaboration, reduces polarization, and helps us to address the growing secularization that often results in indifference or even hostility toward religion in the public sphere. Peace and development are not possible without dialogue across our deepest differences as well. As a summary, I would like to highlight the three ideas just presented in the following way. Interfaith dialogue goes beyond words, involving active collaboration among faith communities to address social challenges. It can be global, they can be local as well. Religious literacy fosters empathy by helping us understand how faith shapes daily life and morals or ethical choices. And finally, hospitality, which is a universal virtue that strengthens intercultural encounters and interreligious encounters and is essential for building inclusive and peaceful societies. Thank you. It's a very interesting approach to the idea of interfaith and interreligious dialogue because I think it has to do also with the language and context where you speak from, because in Spanish we don't have that distinction. That's why when we speak about interreligious dialogue among religious people and spiritualities. So we had to add it later to include also spiritualities. So I may start thinking about an equivalent that we may have between interfaith, and because it makes sense what you certainly say. And about that, And I promise this is going to be the last word I will say, but I'm very tempted to tell you about how in the Middle Ages, since you mentioned the idea of religio, like religare, religion comes from the word religio, religare, which meant the idea of people connecting with God. So St. Thomas had the idea of when we are born, we separate from God, and then we are meant to go back to the divine. That word was religare, so reunite with God. That word in the Middle Ages was only reserved to Christianity. So only Christianity was understood as a religion. Muslims were seen as barbarians, I'm so sorry about that, and Jews were seen as just people that follow a system of laws. So there was no way to connect because we were not considering others the same as us. That's why when we talk about mutual understanding, when we talk about collaboration, and so we need this common ground, and terminology certainly is very important.